The notion that science is satanic and deceptive to faithful Christians stems from a deep-seated misconception about the nature of science and its relationship with religion. This misconception arises from a misunderstanding of the scientific method and its underlying principles, which are often perceived as being in direct conflict with Christian doctrine. Proponents of this view argue that science is inherently evil, seeking to undermine the authority of the Bible and lead believers astray from the path of righteousness. One of the primary concerns of those who view science as satanic is the theory of evolution, which they see as a direct challenge to the biblical account of creation. They argue that by suggesting that humans evolved from a common ancestor with other animals, science is implicitly denying the special creation of humanity by God. This, they claim, is a blatant attempt to supplant God's role in creation and reduce human existence to mere chance and natural processes. However, this criticism stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the scientific method, which seeks to describe the natural world through observation, experimentation, and evidence-based reasoning. Science is not concerned with making valid judgments or pronouncements about the existence or non-existence of God. Its sole purpose is to understand the workings of the natural world, without reference to supernatural or divine intervention. The theory of evolution, for example, is not a statement about the origin of life or the existence of God, but rather a descriptive account of the processes that have shaped the diversity of life on Earth over millions of years. By misinterpreting science as a direct challenge to Christian doctrine, proponents of the science is satanic view create a false dichotomy between faith and reason, suggesting that one must choose between the two. Another area of concern is the scientific community's emphasis on empirical evidence and testability. Critics argue that science's reliance on human observation and experimentation is inherently flawed, and it is susceptible to human error and bias. They claim that science's refusal to consider supernatural or spiritual explanations for natural phenomena is a deliberate attempt to exclude God from the equation. However, this criticism neglects the fact that science's emphasis on empirical evidence and testability is precisely what has allowed it to make such tremendous progress in understanding the natural world. By relying on observable, measurable phenomena, science is able to develop and refine its theories, making predictions and explanations that can be tested and validated through experimentation. Furthermore, the science's satanic view often relies on a distorted view of the historical relationship between science and Christianity. Proponents of this view frequently cite examples of scientists who have been persecuted or marginalized for their beliefs, such as Galileo or Darwin, as evidence of the inherent hostility between science and Christianity. However, this narrative ignores the many examples of scientists who have been motivated by their Christian faith to pursue scientific inquiry, such as Isaac Newton or Gregor Mendel. It also neglects the fact that many of the earliest scientific societies, such as the Royal Society, were founded by Christians who saw an inherent conflict between their faith and the pursuit of scientific knowledge. In conclusion, the notion that science is satanic and deceptive to faithful Christians is a misconception rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of the scientific method and its relationship with religion. Science is not concerned with making value judgments or pronouncements about the existence or non-existence of God, but rather with understanding the natural world through observation, experimentation, and evidence-based reasoning. By creating a false dichotomy between faith and reason, proponents of the science's satanic view do a disservice to both science and Christianity, neglecting the many areas of common ground and shared values that exist between the two. Ultimately, a more nuanced understanding of the relationship between science and Christianity is necessary, one that recognizes the complementary nature of faith and reason, and seeks to integrate the insights of both into a broader understanding of the human experience.